Part 1. The Toast. The humid Connecticut air hung thick and sweet with the scent of summer roses and freshly cut grass, a picture-perfect suburban scene, if you ignored the undercurrent of forced smiles and hushed anxieties that always seemed to simmer beneath the surface of my mother's meticulously planned events. Tonight, it was my engagement party, a celebration meticulously designed to showcase the radiant future she envisioned for me, Ashley. A future involving Tom, her preferred son-in-law. Mom, resplendent in a floral sundress that probably cost more than my entire apartment's rent, practically thrust a glass of ruby red wine into my hand. Her perfectly manicured nails, the color of ripe cherries, dug slightly into my wrist as she did so. "To Ashley and Tom," she chirped, her voice a little too high-pitched, even for her usual effusive self. There was a forced brightness in her eyes, a glint of something that felt almost desperate. The wine shimmered in the late afternoon sun, a deceptive jewel in a crystal goblet. Everything looked picture-perfect, from the strategically placed string lights twinkling in the trees to the miniature quiches arranged on silver platters. But the first whiff of that wine, well, it wasn't exactly a bouquet of wildflowers and sunshine. It was, to put it delicately, unsettling. The initial fruity scent was quickly overpowered by something darker, something almost gamey. It smelled faintly of wet dog after a swim in a murky pond, mingled with a disturbingly metallic tang, like licking a rusty pipe after a rainstorm. Ugh. My stomach did a little flip. I plastered on my best grateful and glowing bride-to-be smile and accepted the glass, my fingers trembling just slightly. The weight of it felt heavier than it should. Across the neatly trimmed lawn, my sister, Brittany, stood beside me, practically vibrating with excitement. She's always been a sucker for romance, grand gestures, and fairy tale endings. Her eyes, bright and sparkling, darted around the scene, taking it all in with genuine delight. I caught her eye, and she gave me a conspiratorial wink and a subtle thumbs up. "Happy for you, Ash," she mouthed, her smile wide and genuine. Brittany always wore her heart on her sleeve. I just hoped this whole happily ever after thing wouldn't come back to bite me, or worse, taste like that Godawful wine. A shiver went down my spine, and I wondered if the chill was from the strange wine or something far more sinister brewing beneath the surface of this perfectly orchestrated celebration. Part 2. The Swap. The next hour was a carefully choreographed dance of mingling and pretending. I smiled at distant relatives I hadn't seen in years, politely answered questions about wedding plans that were largely dictated by my mother's Pinterest boards, and nibbled on cucumber sandwiches that tasted suspiciously like refrigerator. All the while, that glass of foul-smelling wine sat precariously in my hand, a constant reminder of the charade I was playing. I knew I couldn't choke it down. The thought alone made my stomach churn. So, under the guise of refilling my champagne flute, I discreetly maneuvered closer to Brittany. She was laughing with a group of friends, her head thrown back, her blonde hair catching the golden light of the setting sun. She looked effortlessly radiant, happy, and free. A pang of something akin to envy shot through me. "Brit," I murmured, nudging her arm gently. "This wine, it's truly, deeply, offensively awful," I whispered, grimacing and lowering my voice. "It smells like a rusty pipe dreamt it was a poodle." "I'm not kidding." Brittany, ever the optimist, giggled. "Dramatic much?" she teased, but her eyes held a hint of concern. "I'm being entirely serious. It's bordering on toxic. Take a sniff." I held out the glass, carefully tilting it so she could get a whiff without actually ingesting any. She wrinkled her nose immediately. "Okay, you're right." "Oh God. It's unique. Like, biohazard level unique. Where did Mom even find this?" A mischievous glint sparked in her eyes. "Here, swap with me. I don't really care what I drink. I'm just here for the party and the cake." She subtly gestured towards a less crowded area of the garden. Besides, she leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "You're the bride-to-be. You deserve better than swill." I saw Mom stashing a few bottles of the cheaper stuff in the back of the garage. Figured she'd only bring out the good wine for show. I snagged one of those for myself. Relief washed over me, so potent it almost made me giddy. "You are a lifesaver, Britt. Seriously." I owe you big time. Grateful. I subtly exchanged my glass for hers, hoping no one noticed the switch. Don't mention it, she said, winking. Sisterly duty and all that. She raised the questionable wine to her lips, took a tiny sip, and promptly made a face. EW. Yeah, you weren't kidding. Good call. I raised the new wine, which, let's be honest, was probably still bottom shelf, but infinitely preferable to my lips. It was lighter, fruitier, and utterly unremarkable. Grape juice with a hint of alcohol, basically. Just what I needed to navigate the rest of the evening without gagging. Part 3. The Aftermath. The rest of the evening unfolded in a blur of polite conversations, forced laughter, and endless photo opportunities. I felt like a marionette, my strings pulled by my mother's invisible hand. Each smile, each nod, each carefully chosen word felt rehearsed, artificial. I was playing a role, embodying the perfect fiancé, even though the script felt increasingly suffocating. Tom, my fiancé, was the perfect picture of happiness, blissfully unaware of the turmoil churning within me. He moved through the crowd with easy charm, shaking hands, offering compliments, and basking in the attention. He even made a little speech during the cake cutting, talking about how lucky he was to have found me, his soulmate, his everything. He squeezed my hand, his eyes shining with what I could only describe as genuine affection. And that's what made it so difficult. Tom wasn't a bad guy. He was kind, reliable, successful, and safe. He ticked all the boxes on the list my mother had subtly, and not so subtly, been compiling for years. He was the perfect choice on paper. But the spark, the undeniable chemistry, the kind of love that makes you want to set the world on fire, it was missing. And I was starting to wonder if it would ever be there. As Tom spoke, I smiled, nodded, and tried to focus on his words, but I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was deeply, fundamentally off. It wasn't Tom Peruzzi. It was the entire situation, the perfectly orchestrated charade, the gilded cage I felt myself being slowly, inexorably locked into. I felt like a character in a play, reciting lines written by someone else, performing for an audience that was more interested in the spectacle than the truth. The party finally began to wind down around 10. Guests trickled out, offering congratulations and well wishes. As I helped Mom clear away the remnants of the celebration, a bone-deep weariness settled over me. I wanted nothing more than to escape, to shed the costume of the happy fiancé and just be myself, whoever that was anymore. The next morning, I woke with a headache and a sense of foreboding I couldn't quite explain. I chalked it up to the stress of the party and the lack of sleep. But then Brittany called. Her voice was strained, thin, and laced with a tremor I'd never heard before. Ash, I don't feel so good, she said, her words slurring slightly. Really dizzy. And I have a splitting headache that feels like someone is driving nails into my skull. Maybe it's just a hangover? I suggested, trying to sound reassuring, hoping against hope that it was something simple. No, she said weakly, her voice barely a whisper. It's more than that. It's like, I feel poisoned. The word hung in the air between us, heavy and ominous, like a gathering storm cloud. Part 4. The Investigation. My blood ran cold. Poisoned? The word echoed in my head, each syllable a hammer blow. I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles white. Brittany, what do you mean poisoned? Did you eat something bad? I don't know, she groaned. But it's not just a stomach bug. It's different. I can barely stand up. I need you, Ash. Without hesitation, I grabbed my keys and raced to Brittany's apartment. The drive was a blur of flashing images, the ruby red wine, my mother's forced smile, the subtle unease that had been building all evening. By the time I reached Brittany's doorstep, my heart was pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. I found her slumped on the sofa, pale and clammy, her eyes glazed over with pain. She looked fragile, vulnerable, and utterly unlike her usual vibrant self. The sight of her in such distress ignited a fierce protectiveness within me. Something was terribly wrong, and I was determined to find out what. Okay, Britt, stay put, I said, trying to project an air of calm I didn't feel. I'm going to call Mom and see if she knows anything about the wine. I immediately dialed my mother's number, my voice tight with controlled panic. "Mom, Brittany's really sick. She thinks she might have been poisoned. Do you know anything about the wine you served at the party?" Her response was unsettlingly casual. She brushed it off, saying it was an expensive bottle from her private collection, a vintage she'd been saving for a special occasion. "It's probably just a bit old, darling. Wine can do that sometimes. Tell Brittany to drink some ginger ale and get some rest." But something in her tone felt dismissive, almost evasive. There was a lack of genuine concern in her voice that set my teeth on edge. And then I remembered that strange smile she had made during the party. I pressed her harder. "Mom, are you sure that wine was okay?" Brittany said it tasted strange. And I remember it smelled really odd too. She sighed, a sound that grated on my nerves. "Honestly, Ashley, you're always so dramatic. It was perfectly good wine. Now, stop worrying and let me get back to my gardening." She hung up before I could say another word. My gut twisted. Her nonchalance felt like a carefully constructed facade. I decided to take matters into my own hands. Returning to Brittany's side, I helped her to bed and then started a frantic search for the wine bottle. "Do you remember where you put it, Britt?" She shook her head weakly. "Threw it away, this morning. Didn't want to be reminded of it." We drove back to my parents' house, the manicured lawn and perfectly arranged flower beds now seeming sinister and mocking. The backyard looked exactly as we had left it, but the air felt heavy, charged with unspoken secrets. It was like there was a thick veil over everything, obscuring the truth. I told Brittany to wait in the car while I went inside. I started poking around, surreptitiously searching through the recycling bins, rummaging through the trash bags, asking casual questions about the party and the wine. But everyone I spoke to seemed oblivious, eager to move on and forget about the whole affair. Then, a memory flickered in my mind, a small detail I had almost overlooked. Earlier during the party, when I had gone into the garage to grab an ice bucket, I had spotted a different bottle of wine on the counter. It was a different brand, a different shape than the bottles served at the party. It wasn't a wine bottle, but something with warnings on it. And what was written was not vintage, but something saying poison control, rodent control. A wave of nausea washed over me. I had to know what had happened with that wine. I started to think this was not about the wine at the party, but about this bottle and who may have used it for something bad. I had to get back to Brittany. Part 5. The Revelation. A frantic energy surged through me. I had to get to the bottom of this. Leaving Brittany resting in the car, I rushed back into the house, my senses on high alert. I found my mother in the kitchen, calmly arranging a vase of freshly cut lilies, as if nothing were amiss. "Mom, we need to talk." "Now," I said, my voice trembling with barely suppressed rage. "I saw that bottle in the garage. The one labeled poison control, rodent control. What was it doing there?" Her composure cracked. Her perfectly painted lips began to quiver, and the serene facade crumbled. She averted her gaze, fiddling nervously with the flowers. I don't know what you're talking about, Ashley. Don't lie to me," I shouted, my voice echoing through the pristine kitchen. "Brittany is sick, possibly poisoned. And I know that awful wine she drank had something to do with it. Tell me the truth, Mom. What did you do?" Finally, the dam broke. Mom's face crumpled. Tears welled in her eyes, blurring her carefully applied makeup. She sank into a chair, her body trembling with sobs. I did it for you, Ashley." I stared at her, dumbfounded. "What are you talking about?" "You poisoned my sister for me." She looked up, her eyes pleading, her voice choked with emotion. "I know you don't love Tom. You never have. He's not good enough for you. I've seen the way you look at him. You're settling, Ashley. I thought if you were sick, you'd finally call off the engagement. You deserve so much more." My mind reeled. Her twisted logic was almost incomprehensible. "But Brittany, why would you risk hurting Brittany? She had nothing to do with this." She sobbed uncontrollably. "I didn't mean to hurt Brittany. I never wanted that. I thought you wouldn't let her drink it. I thought you'd recognize the smell and throw it away, or at least refuse to drink it and hand it over. I knew you'd swap glasses. You always look out for her. You two are two peas in a pod. I just wanted you to be happy. I wanted you to be free from that awful boy. It's a perfect chance." She looked at me pleadingly, her eyes desperate for understanding. "You're just like me, Ash. You'll understand eventually." I recoiled, a wave of revulsion washing over me. Her definition of happy and free was warped, distorted, and terrifying. My mom wasn't trying to save me. She was trying to control me, to mold me into her own image, to force me into a life she had carefully curated. And in the process, she'd recklessly put my sister's life at risk. "You're insane," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "You're completely insane." As if hearing those words unleashed something within her, Mom's demeanor shifted. The tears dried up, and a cold, calculating look settled in her eyes. "Insane? No, Ashley. I'm practical. I'm doing what's necessary. And you'll thank me for this one day." I grabbed my phone, my hands shaking so violently I almost dropped it. "I'm calling the police." "Don't you dare," she shrieked, lunging towards me. I dodged her, backing away towards the door. "Stay away from me." As I scrambled out of the house, I could hear her voice ringing in my ears, a chilling echo of the perfect suburban hostess she had pretended to be just hours before. "You'll understand, Ashley. You'll see I did it for you. For your own good." I ran to the car, my heart pounding in my chest. I called 911, my voice trembling as I explained the situation. Sirens wailed in the distance, a sound that both reassured and terrified me. My engagement party had turned into a toxic cocktail of lies, manipulation, attempted murder, and mind games. It was now so dangerous that I could never trust this mother again. I looked at Brittany, her face pale and drawn, and a wave of guilt washed over me. She had always been there for me, always protecting me, even when I didn't realize it. And now, she was paying the price for my mother's twisted obsession. I had to protect her, get her to safety, and expose the truth, no matter what the cost. And the worst part? The wine hadn't been the only poisonous thing that night. The relationships within my own family had all turned to poison, and now it was going to be up to me to cauterize these wounds, even if it meant leaving it all behind.